Hello, everyone. My name is Ben Wagner. I'm here today with my colleague, Kathleen Fitzenreiter, and welcome to Tax Tips and Traps for Small Businesses. Today, we're going to cover a number of tax traps that we see our clients encounter, and also try to give you some tips in terms of how to navigate or overcome those traps. We're going to start with just some very simple and basic ones, like should I have a tax accountant or a tax lawyer? If I work out of my house, how much of that can I deduct? Should I use one checking account or multiple checking accounts for personal and business expenses? What about payments to my kids or my parents or my spouse? Are those deductible and taxable? In what way? And then we're going to tackle a couple more complex items in terms of the Section 199A deduction from the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, talk a little bit about what should be included in income, and then also focus on the concept of residency. This is particularly relevant for people who live in high tax states, and talk a little bit about sort of the risks and exposures to trying to leave those states. And then we're going to close with a few topics regarding, the deductions of things like your vehicle, your boat, or your airplane. Also treatment of workers versus employees, and how, to avoid the risks inherent with making that determination in regards to independent contractors. And then finally close out with, concepts that might be relevant to taxpayers who are looking to retire and move on from their business. So I'll turn things over to Kathleen to get started with our first topic.
Thanks, Ben. First, we will talk about whether or not to work with a tax accountant or a tax lawyer. So the world of tax is large. It touches almost everything. And with that, there are a large number of tax practice areas and specialties. So when you're advising a client with regard to their tax matter, it can be helpful to understand what kind of tax professional is best suited for their particular type of issue. So as noted, there are many types of tax practice areas. We won't be able to cover them all today, but we will cover a few of the major areas and whether an accountant or a tax attorney would be better suited to assist the taxpayer in each particular type of issue. So first, we'll cover compliance, then controversy, and finally collections. So first, compliance. Compliance is basically complying with the state and federal tax laws, rules, and regulations. And there are a number of elements involved in this. Generally, this is going to be best suited for an accountant. So first, understanding filing and reporting deadlines and what types of tax returns need to be filed, when they need to be filed, when taxes need to be paid. So there are a variety of tax forms and filing deadlines depending on the type of taxpayer, the type of income. For example, an individual has a different type of tax form to report their income than a business. Both have different filing deadlines. A business itself might have a different type of form depending on the business entity type and the type of tax that it's paying. So it might have a different filing and reporting deadline for income tax versus if it's reporting and paying sales tax. So an accountant is going to be helpful with regard to those issues, as well as making sure that the taxes are properly calculated. So ensuring that that taxpayer is only paying as much as they're required to pay under the state and federal tax laws. Also, working with either an accountant or a bookkeeper for tracking income and expenses and maintaining books and records. So, underlying a return, that income and the expenses that are reported on that return, there needs to be books and records to support those numbers. And generally, it's just good practice to maintain those books and records to substantiate that return for the period within which the IRS or the state taxing authority can audit the return. So for example, the IRS's audit statute of limitations is 3 years. So making sure that you're maintaining those books and records in case of an audit. Next is controversy. So generally controversy matters are going to be best suited for an attorney. There are some situations in which an accountant can be the type of professional that your client would be working with. So to start, generally, controversy is when there's a problem. There's an issue that's come up with the IRS or with the state taxing authority. Generally, this starts with an audit. That's just an examination of a tax return. There's a number of reasons that a taxpayer's return might get selected for audit. Maybe a third party has reported that they paid that taxpayer some income and the taxpayer didn't report it on their return. Now the IRS's system has caught that discrepancy and they want more information. It could be that the IRS or the state is running a particular type of audit campaign. So maybe particular type of business has been, subject to abuse recently, a particular business type. So maybe your client is selected because their business is of a type that they've seen a lot of abuse recently. Maybe it's just a random selection of the returns. There's a lot of reasons that your client might get audited.